Good morning and welcome. I'm George Benson, Dean of the Terry College of Business, and we're pleased to have you with us this morning. And for those of you who haven't been here before, welcome to our new Executive Education Center here in Buckhead. We're very pleased with this facility. We've had our grand opening just back in May, and the activity level has picked up to almost a fever pitch. We've got our Executive MBA program, which is housed here. We have our Directors College here for prospective board of Directors members or current Directors members. And the last time we had our Directors College, we had 50 people from all over the United States come in here for this program. We're real pleased with that. We do a Chief Financial Officer quarterly roundtable. We started that back in June with about 20-some CFOs, and in September we had close to 30. And last time we did it in November, we had almost 50 CFOs from the Atlanta metropolitan area. So wonderful things happening here, and very pleased that you're here this morning. Oh, one other thing, we are going to start a Certified Financial Planner program, I think in May, right here in this facility. So if you're interested in that or know anybody else that's interested, we'd love to have you join us. There is a person here in the room I would like to publicly acknowledge today. I haven't had an opportunity to do this before. It's a person who worked with me, it's like hand in glove with respect to getting this facility off the ground in terms of virtually every aspect of it, and physically the location of it, the way it's furnished, the carpeting, on and on and on. And that is Joanne Chitty. Joanne Chitty sitting over here. Joanne, if you'd please stand. Joanne was head of our real estate foundation, the founding head of our real estate foundation at the University of Georgia. She now works with Selig Enterprises, and I just cherish that time we spent together, Joanne. Thank you for all you did for us. Let me begin by thanking our co-sponsors, as always. Public Broadcasting Atlanta, one of our two media sponsors. I think Harriet Hoskins Abrahall is here today. Hi, Harriet. Are you? Oh, there she is, right in front of me. Harriet, thank you for all you're doing for us. Also, pardon? Oh, you want to say? Absolutely.
Thank you.
I've never given a speech when Harriet hasn't also given a speech. So, Harriet?
But mine's only 30 seconds or less. Thank you. George has been talking about programming. Programming, of course, is at the heart of what public broadcasting does. And there's so much to choose from, it's hard to tell you one thing. But I think Black History Month has to be the top of our list at the moment. That's next month, of course. We have a number of local Black History type programs, and we have no less than 29 national Black History Month programs. They are stellar, I have to tell you. Probably the most intriguing of the lot is something called African American Lives, which traces the personal histories of certain prominent African Americans like Chris Tucker, Quincy Jones, maybe Whoopi Goldberg, through written and photographic records. But where those fail, they've gone to DNA. And in the case of Chris Tucker, they've actually taken him all the way back to Cameroon to meet the tribe with whom he is connected. It's riveting stuff, and I suggest you watch it February the 2nd at 8 and February the 9th, 2 hours apiece. Thank you.
Thanks, Harriet. Also, the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Kim Wilson was supposed to be here. Kim, are you here? Oh, there she is over there. Kim, thank you very much. Thank Ed Baker for us also, please. Finally, our exclusive corporate sponsor these days is RBC Centura. I'm not sure if any representatives from RBC here or not today. Anybody here from RBC? If you are, please stand. Where are you? Oh, okay. Later, maybe they'll be coming in. Coming up on our schedule here, on February 16th, Tom Crawford, the CEO of Crawford & Company, will be joining us. He will be our speaker. Crawford & Company is the largest provider of insurance claims management in the world. They're headquartered right here in Atlanta. Tom is on my board of overseers. I've known him for many years. I also worked with him on my board of overseers at Rutgers when I was up there. I know he's got some interesting stories to tell. They had roughly 400 claims adjusters out working the hurricane season this year and last year. It's been quite an eventful 2-year period for that company. So I think you'll enjoy that presentation. Then the next month, March 16th, Walter Driver will be our speaker. Walter retired at the end of 2005 as the chairman of King & Spalding, and next month he takes over as the head of the United States Golf Association, which is an important, obviously, and very prestigious position. And look forward to Walter's presentation. One upcoming event to note if you're one of our MBA students or if you are a former MBA student with us, we have our Mba Golf Tournament coming up. That will be on April 1st this year, and it will be this year at the Georgia Club, which is out on Route 316 west of Athens, between Athens and Atlanta. We're planning a number of events, not just a golf tournament this year for MB. It's going to be a full weekend with a dinner on Friday night at the Foundry in downtown Athens. We'll also have a Georgia baseball game involved, the State Botanical Garden, and so forth for people who aren't golfers. So there'll be a number of events if you're interested in that. If you want more information, you can talk to me or you can talk to Jill Walton. Jill, where are you? Jill is our Director of Alumni Relations. She's standing back here in the red, right under the spotlight. It's a good place to stand. Thank you. One last thing. I want you to know that our new music business program is off the ground and flying. It's a certificate program that we started literally last week for the first time. The initial speaker to come in was Patterson Hood, who is a member of the Drive-By Truckers, which is a rock group, which that in itself made front page news in the Athens paper and also big news in the Red and Black. It's a program that we are doing. It's kind of a niche play where we do programs for the real estate industry. We do programs for the insurance industry. Well, this is a music business industry. And you think about Atlanta and all that's going on here. I mean, it's stunning with the entertainers that live here, the studios that exist, the production work that goes on, the promoters that operate out of Atlanta. And then you look at Athens and recognize that 2 years ago, Athens was named the #1 college music town in the country. And any given night, there could be 40 bands playing in Athens. So we've got a little music hub going here in the state of Georgia. We've got the Hall of Fame down in Macon, and Macon has a long history of music. Augusta's got a history of music. So we thought we would jump in and see if we could support that industry. And I'm very hopeful that this program will grow and become quite important to the university. It's going to start as a certificate program, which means it's just 6 courses. It's open to anybody in the University of Georgia. We're starting with a full class. We're very happy with that. Big demand for it. I think it'll grow into maybe a major someday, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's successful. It could even become a little school of its own within the Terry College. We have the Tull School of Accounting. We could have the X School of Music Business. So we're looking forward to that someday. Richard Korch, young Richard, is going to introduce our speaker today. Richard is a 1995 finance graduate from the Terry College. Richard is currently Vice President at Carter, the real estate development company here in town. He's been on our alumni board since about 2002, and he heads up our Terry Third Thursday task force, which helps me tremendously, allows me to focus on other things. And Richard, I've really appreciated your leadership in that area, and it's in that capacity that he will come up and introduce our speaker this morning. Richard.
Thank you, George. It's my pleasure today to introduce our speaker, the president and CEO of Cousins Properties, Tom Bell. And I'll tell you, Tom has done something very dangerous in the world of sports and business. He's followed a legend, and that legend I'm speaking of is Tom Cousins, founder and CEO, or founder and now chairman of Cousins Properties. And that's someone we are very proud to claim as an alumnus of the Terry College. So, Tom, you had some big shoes to fill, and you've done a great job. There's absolutely no doubt you've taken on those challenges, and the management team and staff at Cousins Properties is doing a great job for their shareholders and their the real estate market here in Atlanta. This is going to be kind of a little complicated because Tom's resume is about as diverse as anyone I've ever seen. He was the chief of staff of the U.S. Senator Bill Brock while still in his early 20s. He was president and CEO of the Hudson Institute, a think tank, in his early 30s. He was executive vice president of the Ball Corporation in Indiana. He was chairman of Burtson Martseller, a public relations firm in New York. He was vice chairman of Gulfstream Aerospace Corporation in Savannah. He was chairman and CEO of Young and Rubicon, an advertising agency in New York that was sold in 2000 to WPP. So in his early 50s, Tom Bell had done more than most guys do in their entire life, and he found himself somewhat retired. Well, that's when Tom found real estate, or more accurately, when Tom Cousins found Tom Bell. Tom joined Cousins Properties as vice chairman in 2001, and in 2002 he succeeded Tom Cousins as president and CEO. In a short amount of time, he's been a dramatic figure in Atlanta. He's just finishing up his term as chairman of the Metro Atlanta Chamber. And I'm very happy to have him here this morning to talk to us about Cousins Properties and the future opportunities for Atlanta in the real estate market.
Thanks, Richard. You're a credit to your family and your school, which has surprised us all. You know, I'm delighted to be here because there are so many distinguished and accomplished University of Georgia alumnus that you could have here. It's just humbling for a poor University of Tennessee boy to be standing in front of you. And I want you to know, I wouldn't be here this morning if Richard had told me the truth. He told me, don't worry about time. Usually 7 people show up. And most of them are just looking for breakfast. But here I see a vast audience of very distinguished people, many of whom I know and care about. And then, much to my shock, since I talked to him in a different city just yesterday, my chairman, pal, and boss shows up. So I'm going to have to completely change my remarks now. I was going to talk about him, but I think that'd probably be a bad idea given the circumstances. Well, since you're all from the university, and you can see that I had my speechwriter prepare my remarks. Since you're all from the University of Georgia, I'm sure that you studied and you know about and remember from your university days the great Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter, who, you know, lived in the same age as Keynes and really was as famous and well thought of during that period of time, though Keynes is certainly more remembered today and more studied for all the mistakes he made in his economic prognostications. But Schumpeter, most memorable to me academic treatise and theory was a theory called the theory of creative destruction. And basically, I'll put it in layman's Tennessee terms. Basically, the creative destruction is that when you have nothing, you will do almost anything to have something. Does that make sense? You will take inordinate risk. You will work unbelievably hard in order to have something for yourself and your family. As you are more successful and you acquire more and more of life's gifts, over time, and this is true of an individual, of a family, of a business organization, of a governmental entity, as you accumulate more and you become more and more successful, you begin to protect what you have. And you are defending yourself against those others who have nothing, and you quit doing all the things that you did over time to become successful. So you become risk averse, you work less hard, you take more leisure time, you're less creative, less inventive, etc., etc. And Schumpeter's position was that this cycle has gone on throughout time, and if you study history and sociology and psychology, you'll find that there is a lot of evidence to support his theory. Now, what does that have to do with this morning? Well, what I would like to talk about this morning is our community, the community of the Atlanta metro area. And even though I gave up my chamber hat about 6 weeks ago, or about a month ago, I still feel compelled whenever I'm in front of a distinguished audience like this one to talk about our city. And when I say city, I mean the 4.5 million people who make up the Atlanta metro area. Now, I've lived, as Richard suggested, many places. And I know it sounds to you when he goes through that litany that I couldn't really keep a job. And, you know, there's some truth to that. but I've had the opportunity to live many places, from New York City to Muncie, Indiana, and they're different. Muncie and New York, and Savannah and Nashville and Knoxville and Atlanta and Washington, D.C. And, you know, when you have lived many places and moved many times, you find a place like Atlanta, Georgia, which is my final town in which I will live, unless I escape to Florida for tax purposes the month before I die. Just add that. But when you find a place like Atlanta, Georgia, you have a certain perspective, you know, about that place, because you can compare it to all the other places that you've been. And I was shocked when I arrived in Atlanta and found out what a terrific quality of life the people here in this city enjoy. It has so many terrific attributes. Great people, a wonderful community spirit, terrific diversity, an unequaled sense of partnership between the various constituencies that exist here, business, government, academia, the not-for-profit community. Pretty much all of these communities, with the exception of the media community, seem to fit together and work towards, no offense there, Kim, specific goals and objectives. And I've never seen anything like that in any other community that I've been in. But we do have our challenges, and they include, though you may not have noticed this, traffic. We have a traffic problem in the metro region. Water, availability and quality, air quality, multiple jurisdictions, which is one that you don't often think about, but here's a factoid for you that might be interesting. In the metro Atlanta region, we have 165 governmental entities that get to make decisions about your life and mine and what we do and where we do it every day. And they do it in a largely uncoordinated fashion, each sort of seeking its own ends. We have educational issues here that are quite serious. A brilliant higher educational system and constituency, but a difficult public educational process. Improving, but difficult. And lastly, and the one that's most concerning, I think, is we have a sort of emerging feeling of discontent among citizens of our city who have lived here for a long time. Many of these problems are perceived to be unsolvable, irresolvable, cost too much, too late, politically impossible to deal with, too disruptive, too expensive. And this has sort of created, I see it because coming here from someplace else, a sort of constant stream, not among every, but among some people here in our region, this constant complaint, this sort of yearning for the good old days, you know, the way it was when I grew up. Why can't Buckhead, you know, be the way it was when I grew up? It was so great. So now we're back to Joseph Schumpeter. Nothing is ever the way it was. And people in societies and organizations and institutions invest huge energy and emotion and political and financial capital and human capital in trying to keep things as they are, or even possibly push them back to the way they were, and it is a futile, costly exercise. Change is inevitable, unavoidable, and generally healthy and productive when it's understood and embraced and properly planned for. And it's difficult and painful when it's resisted and people are unprepared, because it is inevitable and it's going to occur, and how you deal with change often makes the difference between your success and failure. One of Schumpeter's other points was, and an interesting one, sort of a sidebar, is the more successful you are at resisting change, the more difficult and dangerous it is. Because ultimately, it's going to overwhelm you, and the longer you hold it off, the more unprepared you are and poorly positioned you are for its ultimate arrival. Our city is changing dramatically. It has grown beyond anyone's imagination. The 1990 census, the 1980 census, suggested that today Atlanta would be a city of about 2.5 million people, the region. We ended up with 4.5 million people. So almost twice the growth that was expected. For the next 20 years now, by 2025, we will grow by over 2 million additional people, according to the census. Would put us at 6.5 million people. 2.3 million is what they say. 1.7 million new jobs. Now, just stop for a second and imagine Atlanta as we know it today with 2.3 million more people. Are you excited and enthusiastic and delighted? You know, what will Buckhead look like then? You know? And I know in your mind you're saying, well, some of you are saying, like me, well, hell, I won't be here, so. But for some of the younger people in the audience, are you delighted and enthusiastic, Richard? You're in the real estate business, so if you're not, I got to talk to you after the meeting. But no, most people say, "Oh my God, no," you know, tell them not to come. How do we keep them out? Well, here's another factoid for you. 1.2 million of those people will be what we call organic growth. That's births minus deaths of the people that are already here. So if you don't want to grow, you have to, when your child becomes 18 or goes off to the University of Georgia in Athens, you have to say, don't come back. Or you have to leave, one or the other. Somebody's got to go or we're going to grow. So we have to deal with our growth. And we have to embrace it. 2.3 million more citizens is a great thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's going to create huge opportunities in our community. You know, jobs for our children. You know, economic opportunity for our citizens. More tax dollars to support all of the things that we have to do, including our infrastructure. You know, growth is a good thing. And I believed that even before I was in the real estate business. Because just think for a second, what happens when you don't grow? What happens to cities when they don't grow? It's a disaster. An unavoidable disaster. And remember, nothing, no organization, no city, no society, no family stays in a state of equilibrium. They're either getting better or they're getting worse. What's your choice? We need growth. Without growth, our children leave. Without growth, tax rates go up. Smaller population, lower tax base supports the infrastructure. The infrastructure has to be supported. Taxes go up. Taxes go up, people leave. People leave, there's no money to support the infrastructure. Infrastructure fails. More people leave. Growth is good, but we have to accommodate it. We have to embrace it. You know, we have to plan for it. We're also facing huge demographic changes as we grow. Another factoid for you, our over 60 population during the same period of time will grow by 300%. Families with children at home will decline by 36%, according to the census. These are huge changes and how they affect our society and our life going forward. There are also other demographic changes. Our mix of population, the racial mix of our population is changing now dramatically and will continue to change. Our Hispanic population is growing at an astounding rate. We're seeing the demographic shift. The city of Atlanta, the 487,000 people that we call the city of Atlanta, we see the demographics in the city changing dramatically. We see the demographics in the out counties changing dramatically as people move from one place to another. So let's go back to our challenges and what we might do about them. First, traffic. First of all, let me talk to you about traffic. I moved here from New York City. We have traffic, you know, and if you get on 400 at the wrong time, it's very frustrating, or 285 or 85 or 75. But this will come as a shock to you, this is not unique. Cities, urban areas have traffic problems. You know, we do too. We suffer a little more than most because we have no east-west corridors, which is a problem. And it's also very difficult to do anything about that, you know, now. But don't think that we're unusual. You go to Washington, D.C. today, their traffic is much worse than ours. We've lived there, right? New York City, I don't want to talk about that. Chicago, average commute an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, urban areas have traffic issues, and they are not impossible to solve. And the recent work that we did, the Quality Growth Task Force, we found through very sophisticated modeling and a lot of research with the help of Bain & Company and others, that by changing the way we use land in our city, by putting concentrations of people closer to the infrastructure that they would use for transportation and other services, by putting people closer to where they work, we can not only not make our traffic worse as we grow, we can make it better. And that's with our existing budget. Now, we need more money for infrastructure. We have $58 billion planned for transportation infrastructure over the next 20 years. I think that's correct. In the plan, we need about $77 billion, ideally. But even with this $55 billion, which is what we modeled, we can make it better, not worse. But it takes a change in attitude, you know, a change in how we approach land use, a change in what we consider to be appropriate housing. I'll give you just one example. We have to put people closer to where they work. In North Point, which is a major retail corridor started by this gentleman right here in front of us, there are allegedly 12 to 15,000 retail workers. They make between $23,000 and $45,000 a year, mostly at the lower end of that. Okay. The closest place for them to live, the vast majority of them to live in an affordable home for them, is 13 miles away. Okay? Because the zoning ordinances which exist in the communities which surround that trade area do not allow dense and reasonably priced, from their perspective, housing. Okay? So they have to drive 26 miles every day, or 25 or 30, or, you know, in order to get to and from their job. If we were to put housing that they could afford closer to where they work, they wouldn't necessarily give up their car, but they would drive 2 miles, or 3 miles, or 4 miles. Now, I'm no traffic engineer, but to me, it makes sense that if you can have a car on the road for 2 or 3 or 4 miles versus 25 or 30 miles, that would be a good thing. That would provide relief. And that's what the model said, too. Why don't we do that? Well, because it's against the law. You say, well, that can't be right. What law? Well, the zoning ordinances that are created by this 165 governmental entities that we earlier discussed who are strenuously resisting the future. Oh, no, 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 no. We don't want density, because with density you get those people. And we don't want those people in our community. Now, I've tried to figure out who those people are, and it's very difficult. Mostly young people, you know, or people who don't pay enough taxes, or people who use too much infrastructure. You know, it's hard to determine exactly who those people are, but they don't want them. They know that. They want big lots, single-family houses, you know, good tax base. And, you know, that would be bad if it was right, and it's dead wrong. I'll go put my cousin's hat on a second. We were trying to develop our 216 acres across from North Point. We wanted to put multi-price housing in that development. We wanted to have stack flats that started at $100,000, which these workers could afford. We wanted townhomes at $125,000 to $200,000. We really weren't putting any very expensive housing in there. We wanted apartments, nice apartments. Alpharetta would have none of it. The city of Alpharetta, none of it. We had to fight and fight and fight. It took us 2 years. You know, we finally got some stack flats, which, by the way, sold out before they were started. We got some townhomes, all of which also sold out. We didn't build them. They were built by Aston Woods and Whelan. We finally got some apartments, but we had to promise that would be senior apartments, so you had to be over 55 to live in those apartments. And why is that? Don't use the schools, you know, low infrastructure use. And I guess over 55 isn't those people. This resistance to change, you know, this idea that they could create this mecca in the middle of urban chaos is absurd. It's been proven 1,000 times throughout history. Embrace change, understand change, plan for change, put people closer to where they work. People also say, well, I don't want to have a $100,000 stack flat next to my $1.5 million home because it's going to erode the value of my home, right? You hear that. You might even believe that. Well, let me just suggest to you where we're standing right now. I live 1.5 miles from here, maybe. Within a half a mile, more than that, within a quarter of a mile from my house are the highest priced condos in the city and the lowest priced condos in the city. High priced apartments and low priced apartments. $10 million homes, I guess, or more, $350,000 homes on single family lots. I don't think the pricing on Valley Road, on Habersham, on West Andrews, I don't think those prices are going down. I don't think my home value is being hurt by having workforce housing in my neighborhood. Got to have housing change. We can solve our traffic problems, or at least make sure that they don't get any worse, but it takes a significant change in how we approach transit, land use, home prices, and infrastructure. Water. Lee Thomas, former head of EPA, says we have a big water problem and it's not in 2030, which is what, you know, the newspapers would suggest, and I think it's common wisdom. It's just right around the corner. We're the largest urban area in the North America with the smallest watershed available to us. Water is going to be our Achilles heel, but it doesn't have to be. You know, other parts of the world have demonstrated through conservation, through reuse. Let me talk about reuse for a second. A home on sewer versus a home on septic. A septic system is a no-return system. So the experts say a home on septic uses 6 times the water that a home on sewer uses, which is a reuse system. 6 times. Now, I'm not against septic systems. I think you have a large lot and you have a place for a septic system, you want to build it, you don't have sewer available to you, that's terrific. We have 1 million homes. That's not right. We have the largest percentage of homes, I think 1 million people on septic in the greater Atlanta metro area when a sewer runs by their house. Now, maybe we should come up with some incentive to get those people onto the sewer system and off of the septic system. We do little or nothing with regard to conservation, water conservation. We have wrong-headed legislative initiatives driven by the parts of the environmental community that want to make it illegal to transfer water from one watershed to another. The city of Atlanta is fed by 4 watersheds. If you said you couldn't transfer water from one watershed to another, it'd be a disaster for the city of Atlanta. We can solve our water issues, but it requires planning and an aggressive approach. We also need more storage for water. Air quality. Actually, I don't worry about air quality very much. If we can solve our traffic issues or keep them sort of static, technology seems to be taking care of the air quality issues at a rapid rate. Even the EPA suggests to us today that by 2015, our air quality, which is better today than it has been in a very long time, should be up to a very high standard. Education. This is a thorny problem. I've learned from Tom Cousins and others that, and I remember going to my first education conference with Lou Gerstner in 1983 when the business community discovered education and decided they were going to get in and fix the problem. And I've been to that same meeting 50 times over 20-something years with many different groups. And we still have an issue. But leadership, I think the city of Atlanta is blessed today with a terrific superintendent who's making a real difference at the elementary education level. In fact, my kids until last year were at Jackson Elementary School here in Atlanta. We moved them here from a hoity-toity fancy Stanwich Academy in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I tell you, Jackson Elementary School runs rings around Stanwich Academy. No comparison in terms of discipline, self-esteem, and the education they got in the classroom. Leadership, parental involvement, critical. Choice. All kids aren't the same, and they don't all want the same thing. Teachers. It's all about the teachers. It was interesting to see recently that the governor came up with an initiative. I don't think it's been passed into law, but an initiative where 60%, 65% of every education dollar would have to go into the classroom. That's a step in the right direction. Support the teacher. And then lastly, standards. Standards is a thorny and difficult issue. I had my kid's 4th grade teacher over to the house night before last, and we were talking, and she was complaining bitterly about how everything they do in the classroom today is focused on passing tests as opposed to teaching kids. Well, that doesn't sound like a good thing. But no tests and no standards doesn't sound like a good thing either. Leadership, parental involvement, choice, teachers, standards. So can we deal with our traffic issue? Yes. Can we deal with it by looking backwards? No. Can we deal with our water issue? Yes. But can we put it off to 2030? No. Can we deal with our air quality issues? Yes, and we are. Can we deal with our educational issues? Yes, and we are. But it requires more from us. So I guess you're asking yourself, or I know at this point when I was writing this out, I was asking myself, so what the heck is this all about? What's your point? And my point simply is this. It's about us. No one else is going to solve our problems for us. The government's not going to solve our problems, for sure. They're not going to be solved by resistance, by denying the future. They're not going to be solved by some group of others, whoever that group may be. They'll be solved by us. The most powerful thing that Atlanta has going for it, that I have observed as a newcomer to your city, is this willingness to become involved, this willingness to make problems your own, this willingness to participate in solutions. That is the defining characteristic of the Atlanta metro region. A partnership between government and educational community and academia and the business community to attack and solve problems. Whether it's sewer or traffic or educational attainment or water quality, there are people who are willing to commit themselves with no pay, no acknowledgement, no glory to the betterment of this community. So to me, the most disturbing possibility out there is that this might change, that this melancholy might create a generation of individuals in our city who are not willing to put themselves on the line, who are not willing to embrace change in the future and figure out how to get the job done. That would be a tragedy. So why do I get up early in the morning and write out my little talks and go talk to audiences like this? It's because I want to spread the word that it's all about us. And as long as you're willing to show up, as long as you're willing to be involved in all the things that you do every day, with your church or with your civic organization or with your community organization, with your school, as long as you're willing to give of yourself, as long as you're willing to embrace and plan for the future, then I truly believe that this city can and will be one of the great, great cities of all times. We have everything that's required. Most importantly, we have you. So thank you very much for having me here this morning.
Tom will take some questions now. We'd like you to use the microphone. We're recording this to be archived on our website, so you can gain access to this anytime you want in the future.
Tom, the Peachtree Corridor study and task force that you're co-chairing is probably one of the most important things we have right now to solving those problems. We know about streetcar, we know about retail. What are the issues that you all are tackling, and how do you prioritize that in looking at all of the things related to Peachtree?
Jim, thanks. The Peachtree task force was a trick. I went to the mayor. I think this idea of a streetcar up and down Peachtree is fantastic. Why? Because it connects all our transportation infrastructure. People don't talk about that, but not only is it a way to get up and down Peachtree, but it connects MARTA and it connects the Beltline to your ability to reach about 60% of our commercial activity. If you think about the corridor as 2 blocks on either side of the street. So I went to the mayor on my knees, begging for overt support for the streetcar, just like she supported the Beltline. And she said to me, and we gave our presentation, and she said, I really like this, Tom, and I will support it on one condition. And I said, what's that, Madam Mayor? She says, I want it to be in the context of something bigger than the streetcar. I want it to be in the context of the corridor, the Peachtree corridor, our great street, our legendary street. What can it be? What should it be? What can we make it? What is the Peachtree ideally? I said, God, what? That's a great idea. Mayor, I never thought about that. She said, good. You chair that task force. I'll support the street. So that's how I got that job. What it is it's really not a planning exercise, which would be sort of presumptuous on our part. It's more of a visioning exercise. Ideally, as we grow and as we change over the next 20 years, what can we do to motivate the development and incent the development of the Peachtree Corridor in a way that will create a distinctive boulevard for the pleasure of our citizens and the enjoyment of our visitors. A great street. What can we do to create a great street? You know, New York has Park Avenue and Fifth Avenue, and Chicago has Michigan, and you know, Paris has Champs-Élysées, and there are great streets. And what do they have? You know, what's the common characteristic of great streets, and what can we do about them? Create a residential magnet, a business magnet, an entertainment and retail magnet. Many things are already occurring. I mean, literally, every day you read in the paper something that's going on up and down Peachtree and in that corridor. But should we have a coordinated approach to this? And what would it look like? So what we've done is we've gathered together individuals from various communities, from the religious community. How many churches are there on Peachtree? About 1 million. From the medical community, from the educational community, from the social services community, from the housing community, from the parks and green space community. And we put these people on the task force, because the task force will really serve as a sort of jury. And then we're putting together a very significant technical infrastructure where we're drawing on people like you to serve on these technical panels that will deal with specific issues like transportation issues and retail development and things of this nature. And then we have 3 plans already. You know, the 3 CIDs each have a plan for Peachtree. So Midtown, Downtown, Buckhead, they each have their plan. We're trying to integrate that. We don't want it to look all the same. It shouldn't look all the same. Great streets don't look all the same. They each has their character, but it needs to have some common characteristics as well. You can put a streetcar up and down Peachtree and have it loop at the bottom, and do it right. It will be an unbelievable economic engine for the city of Atlanta. I mean, just imagine if you can, you know, live a couple blocks off of Peachtree, walk up to the corner, within 5 minutes, streetcar shows up, take the streetcar down to your office, you know, your law office or, you know, your job, wherever it might be, come home, never have to get your car out of the garage unless you want to. Or, conversely, maybe you work down here in Buckhead, you want to go party downtown, but you don't want to drive your car because you might party too much. Well, as long as you can stumble onto the streetcar, you know you can get close to home. It'll allow you to take the MARTA and connect with the streetcar and actually get to where you want to go. So it has a real economic power. It's about a 1-year project, and we start the 1st of February. Anybody else?
What about the crime problem, the panhandling problem? I mean, that's a big fly in the ointment here.
I think that's this is a touchy issue because it has been given racial overtones, which don't have, I mean, to me, are ridiculous. But some political types chose to use that as a vehicle. It was about the homeless. You know, panhandling is not the solution for the homeless. And I think the mayor and Horace Sibley and others are doing a great job in addressing themselves to that problem. But that was a great example of this resistance to change issue, you know. But what most people didn't understand is we had an ordinance on the books that was tougher than the one we just passed, not enforced. I was in New York City when Giuliani got elected. We had a huge panhandling issue and a huge street presence issue. Within 12 months, it had disappeared. Absolutely disappeared. So it can be done. But you have to enforce the laws that exist, and you have to give that panhandler, you have to get the professional panhandler who does it for a living, the one that changes his clothes in the car, you know, and lives in the suburbs, makes about $160 to $200 a day tax-free for doing nothing but panhandling. You got to put that person, you got to get rid of them, put them in jail, put them out of business. The person who's panhandling because they need to eat, you have to provide services for that person, and you have to enforce the law. So when you go to the person who needs to eat and say you can't panhandle, you have to be willing to take them someplace to give them a hot meal and put and service them. And we can do that. Other cities have done it, and we can do it. But you can't create this huge political dilemma every time we face an issue like that. You know, it requires people getting together and saying, okay, we've got an issue, we've got to solve the issue. What are we going to do to solve it? As opposed to creating a grandstand for people who want to get elected to public office in the future, which is basically what happened, in my opinion. But we got it done. I mean, ultimately, we got it done. It's just like the sewer vote, you know. Started out 9-6 against, and ended up 13-1-4. But there was a lot of work between the first and the last vote of the council on that issue. And you know how it got done? Sewer? Just people just like this, who finally said, okay, I'm going to get involved in this. I'm going to call my council person. I'm going to go see my council person. Let them know that there are people who are willing to pay a little more for clean water. Yes, sir.
As far as your quality growth and some of the zoning issues that you spoke of, I know in the Midtown area with the SPI 16 overlay district, when I go to develop a piece of property, the zoning is clear, the intent of it is clear. I know that I can get that density. If I cross over the highway to the west side, then I might have the zoning in place, but I've never seen zoning for a project that would maximize where you don't need some type of variance, whether it's parking or setback or something. And at that moment, it doesn't matter what your zoning density is, because you fall into control of every individual neighborhood, every NPU that's in that area. So the ability to actually develop quality growth and develop the density that we're talking about goes away. And you can't necessarily always count on your city council representatives to help you out, because they're not going to go against the thousands of people in those neighborhoods who vote them into office. So how do you balance what you're trying to do, the quality growth to build the density in areas that call for density, but yet they butt up to a residential neighborhood who does not want it, and you have to go through them because of the way the city ordinances are?
Yeah, that's a real issue. And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. That is the classic Schumpeterian, you know, not here. You know, when we talk about tax increases, Tip O'Neill always used to say, and don't tax me, I won't tax you, and don't tax me, we'll tax that guy behind the tree. And the answer is these overlay zoning proposals that we want to put in place. And the Livable Communities, the group which came out, it was run by Larry Gellerstadt, now chaired, which came out of the Quality Growth Task Force, is focused on just that issue. And generally what happens is it's not 1,000 people in that neighborhood, it's 10. You know, it's 10 people who really don't want it to happen, you know, who are resisting. And by the way, you know, sometimes they need to be resisting, because all developers are not like you guys in Selig or Tom Cousins and Cousins. So sometimes resistance is a good thing. I'm not saying that, you know, you should never resist, but by and large, they're saying, look, I don't want this to happen because it's happening next door to me. And I could give a, you know what, about the greater good. I'm worried about me. And what experience has taught us is the only way to deal with those issues is to put what the political term is butts in seats. How many of you have gone to a council meeting? I see the real estate community is present. How many of you, you know, gone to a commission or council meeting? Well, it's all about who's there. You know? And so if the 10 neighbors are there with their facts and figures, and they are representing the neighborhood, of course nobody ever elected them to represent the neighborhood, they're representing the neighborhood, and the council person's sitting there, and that's the voice that they hear, then that's what the council person's going to do. This is exactly what happened in the sewer. I mean, the only thing that the council was hearing was, don't raise my rates, which is understandable. No one was hearing, solve the problem. You better solve the problem. Because if the feds take over our sewer system and we have a sewer moratorium, which means no tap can be turned until it's over. So no new symphony hall, no new high museum, no new symphony towers, no new aquarium, no new World of Coke, no new nothing. When the citizens figured that out, then they got involved. And the council person was suddenly flooded with phone calls on the other side saying, you better do something. I had council people calling me, coming to the office, saying, make them stop. Every time I pick my phone up, there's somebody on it. My email system has melted. You know, my voicemail is overwhelmed because people suddenly discover, hey, this makes a difference to me. Well, if you can put the people in that room who are committed to the bigger picture, then the council person is in a position where they say, well, look, I'm going to make these people mad if I do this. I'm going to make these people mad if I do that. Maybe I should do whatever's right as opposed to what's politically expedient. So you got to go. You've got to go. You've got to understand the issue. You've got to care, and you've got to show up and say, hey, wait a minute. It's not speaking for me. I live in that neighborhood. Not speaking for me. I think this could be a good thing. Now, there are a few things I'd like you to do, which is our life, right? And we'll do them, but we'll get it done. So I think overlay zoning, which provides less ability to tinker, and aggressive participation by people who want to embrace and plan for the future, can change that. And already we have 7 jurisdictions who are working with the Livable Communities Coalition on plans to do just that, to make it where the MPU cannot come up after the fact and say, okay, well, you complied with everything, but we're not going to give you this. Much more administrative authority, for instance, on variances would be one thing we could do. One more, George.
Yeah,
yes, Sam.
Tom, Richard mentioned earlier that you arguably have the most impressive pedigree of any corporate executive in town, and I think all of us would share my opinion that we're very fortunate to have you in our community. But let's be honest, there is a glowing omission in your resume. I don't think you're going to go much further in your career with that Tennessee education. And thanks to Dean Benson, I just wanted to make sure you were aware that there is an executive MBA program here that very well may serve you well in the future. So if you'd like to talk to Dean later on, we'd like to.
Thank you for that, Sam. I speak to that program every year. I teach a class at Terry at the Athens campus every year, and they're delighted to have a Tennessee guy there. But you know, that is a good point. My mother is still waiting for me to get a real education, and thank you all very much.
Tom, thank you. It's a powerful message. It's up to us, and that's what I've taken away from this today. And I'd like to add one last little thing to your list of issues and challenges that we have. It's something I worry about. It's the airport. I quite frankly worry that metropolitan area of this side with one airport is going to be constrained in the future. As you go up and down the East Coast and out to the Midwest and out to the West, think of all the major cities. Think how many airports they have. They have access to 2, 3, sometimes 4 airports, and we don't have that opportunity. So that's another one I'd just like to add to the list. But thank you very much for being here today. We have a couple of things we'd like to give you if you come back up.
An MBA?
Well, I think we can engrave that on the back here. Piece of glass with Terry on it. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
And we got even something more special, which is not a bucket of paint, as it seems to appear. Now, there is no orange on this anywhere that I could find, and but it's something we hope you will wear proudly. It's something that only goes to speakers that come to Terry Third Thursday, and is our Terry Third Thursday golf shirt. We'd like you to
Thank
have
you
this
very
as well.
much. I've already lost both my kids to the University of Georgia, so I'm quickly transitioning. Thank you.
Thank you. Not sure what this is. This is what? Oh, the box for that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Now, parking. As you leave, if you simply tell them outside Terry Third Thursday in this parking deck right back here, they'll let you go out scot-free. We also can validate your parking if you brought the coupon up with you. See somebody here at the door. Next month, it's Tom Crawford. I hope you will try to be here, and I look forward to seeing you next month and many months to come. Thanks for being here today.